All right, we are back with the Gambler's Perspective, episode 162, Fight Night over in Baku. Fiziev Torres, I'm Gianni the Greek, along with my co-host Nick Kalikas and the great James Lynch in the booth. Be joining us a bit later. Great card on Saturday night before the break as we approach International Fight Week in early July. But first, as we always do, before moving forward, we got to rewind and go over our last show. Got to look at the results because we do share best bets. This is a betting show, and we go over show to date, year to date, and overall podcast to date results and cover it all. With that said, tough card for me. I had Hossa. That was my big bet. She was my big bet for On the Line. Unfortunately, I didn't like volume, so I had to have her gobble up most of my bankroll. On this show, it wasn't as costly. It was a straight bet. I lose the, couple $100, still up over almost a dime, and up over 5 dimes overall. So that was good. But over on the Line, she killed my whole bankroll pretty much. I know you had her as well, Nick, along with Hyder. Hyder cost a lot of sharp bettors. Lost 440, puts you down nickel. Got to make that up pretty much overall as well. But yeah, just a tough card last Saturday for all bettors. I don't know anyone really celebrating last Saturday night.
Nah, it was tough, man. Felt like we had some good spots pre-fight, of course, and then after the fact, it didn't kind of work out that way. Also had Horiguchi. I thought he was rolling until he wasn't, but again, credit Cop, because that's what he can do. He's capable of doing that as well. The fight game can be brutal, man, and it was probably the worst week for me personally of the whole year. So it was, coming off one of those weekends that you just want to put behind you for sure and move on. There's no question about it. Even when we win, I say it often. I say, you know what? We had a winning weekend. Whatever the case is, we got to move on. It's a new week, new card. So that's how you have to look at it for sure. I mean, you got to put the past behind you and just move forward and keep grinding.
Yeah. Well, we did get four dogs last week out of that card. So I know there was some parlays that got burnt, but let us know who got smoked last week, courtesy of Triumph Cigars. And make sure you give Triumph Cigars some support and a follow. Like I said, doing a lot of good stuff for a lot of these young fighters in the UFC. Nick, I'm pretty sure, and we have a couple, like I said, 4 dogs, but there was one big favorite that just didn't get there. I'm pretty sure he smoked a lot of bettors. Give it to us.
He smoked a lot of parlays for sure. And it's Andre Lima bettors. You guys got smoked. Kevin Barajas went out there, fought pretty well. He got the judge's nod. It was kind of a battle for sure. I mean, they all put it out there, so it was a pretty good fight. But unfortunately for you Lima bettors, you guys got smoked, putting him in parlays. I mean, I think a lot of people thought it was kind of an automatic thing. I was surprised as well by the decision, by, the performance, whatever you want to say. But credit to Kevin, man. He showed up. He got a huge win. Probably the biggest win of his career, so that puts him in a good position as well. But unfortunately for you chalk bettors, didn't work out.
Well, we were supposed to do a UFC On the Line for Fiziev Torres, but betting lines just weren't up yet as we were coming off that 250 show. So we get to talk about it here, Nick. Decent fight, especially for a main event, coin flip kind of line right now where it sits with Fiziev about a minus 120, 1.5. The over favored about 125, 130 as well. This one's not expected to go very long for lightweights. Any opinion on this fight?
Yeah, I mean, at the current price, it's hard not to like Fiziev. I understand, he's coming off that brutal loss. And Torres is a killing machine. It seems like, man, he's such a fun fighter to watch because he goes out there and he's a finisher, man. And he's made me some money before. I backed off him a little bit too. And one of the reasons I back off him in certain spots for Torres is he's defensively flawed as well. I mean, he's a kill or be killed type of fighter. And on the other end of things, you have Fiziev coming into this spot, which is getting underappreciated a little bit. He's one of the best strikers in the division, make no mistake about it. I mean, look at some of the classic wars he's had. So he's coming off that loss. I get it. A lot of recency bias kind of cooked into the equation here. I don't think it's right. I think you are getting a shorter price on Fiziev with value. So for me, I think it's a a dog or pass situation with Fiziev right now being a slight dog. I think he's minus 105 out there. So he should be the favorite here. Again, it's going to be a firefight. I do trust Fiziev. Believe it or not, out of the two, I trust Fiziev's durability a little bit more than I do Torres. So I think Fiziev has the offense to get Torres out of there as well. I think we are going to see a finish. That's why you're seeing the total so low, 1.5. It's a tough one to bet too, because you could see it barely trickle over that spot, but something's going to happen within a round or two for sure. Because again, both these guys have their defensive issues at times. So it's going to be a fun fight. I love the matchup. I just think everybody's underestimating Fiziev in this spot. So I like Fiziev, and I'll probably be on him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's like he's not ranked in the top 15 there at lightweight. You have, Torres sitting at 13. Rufi, who Fiziev was just the minus 130 favorite against, in the top 10. And I think, it's putting the nail in the coffin a little too soon. I get he's lost 4 of his last 5, but again, look at the names. He lost twice to Gaethje. Both of those were fight of the nights. Both went all 3 rounds. He lost to Gamrot and he lost to Rufi. All respectable losses with a win against Bahamondes in between, which shows you against a younger up-and-coming guy with some steam that doesn't have his experience, he was able to handle. And it's almost in that same category, I think, for Torres, who seems to be the more unproven. I get it. Having Dawson on his record adds to his overall win percentage against who he's fighting, his opponents. So it makes the strength of schedule look better. And he's coming off back-to-back, first round knockouts, performance bonuses. It all looks great. He's going to get money at the window as well. I'm going to sit back and wait, Nick. I think we're going to get an even better price on Fiziev. I would not be surprised if this line flips by the time we get the Saturday and we get plus money on Fiziev once the betting public gets to the window.
I hope you're right. It is possible. I think you might be right. So yeah, I agree. I think
it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. I don't think.
Nope.
I think it's more probable than Fiziev going to 150. You know what I mean? I think it's a lot more probable Torres goes off at 120 than Fiziev goes off at like minus 140. I'm going to wait. With that said, chalk in the co-main with Shara making a return, fan favorite, bounced back off his loss and got in the win column against Barrialt in a decision. Money coming in on Shara. He was down to about minus 310, got up to about minus 350. 400. Now it's about 350. So a little take back. 1.5 over minus 200. What do you think, Nick? Any opinion here?
Line's a little bit higher than I anticipated, and I think a little bit too high still, because you got to respect Perhetta in a lot of ways. But he's been out there fighting a lot of high caliber opponents for a while, and he's dangerous, and he's going to bring a firefight here. That's the thing. Magomedov, in some cases, it's weird with him because he's a sniper and he's an amazing finisher, but sometimes he outpoints his opponents and he doesn't get that finish because it's not like he's got crazy knockout power. It's a sniping ability a lot of times that gets it done for him. But the thing is here with Michel, he's going to come in aggressive and he's going to leave openings. So I think Shara probably does get him out of there before it hits the scorecards. So I do think that this is a good spot for him to get a kind of a highlight reel knockout. And Michel Pineda is getting a little bit older. We know that. Again, he's been in more wars across his career. So I think the line is a little bit too high, and I would maybe look at the prop market for Shara if you're going to like that side. But I think he does get it done in this spot. But again, it's just a little bit too high for me. I'm not tempted really. You got to be disciplined in this game, and if the line continues to climb back up, whatever the case may be, I'll probably take a small bet on the dog. But at this point, I won't. I'll probably leave it alone.
I was hoping I got confirmation from someone out there I respect on the Pereira side, because I want plus 300. I think I'm going to get it because it was plus 300 just a couple of days ago. And at that price, I got to get involved. He's a guy who's won 7 of his last 10 fights. He's got so much experience. I get it. He's also got wear and tear, but he's got power. Look at his knockdown rate and his knockdown ratio. It's as respectable as it comes. And then if anyone's going to mix in a ground game, it's going to be him. At least he attempts 1 takedown per 5 minutes, where nothing on the Magomedov side. And if he's able to do that, if he could just mix in 1 takedown he could control a round against Magomedov, possibly. But, you know, I guess that's wishful thinking. But I also think strength of schedule is on the side of Pereira in a huge way. And it's not just against the guys he's lost. I'm talking about the guys he beat. Because sometimes it's like, okay, they got a respectable overall strength of schedule because they lost against guys who won 80% of their fights. But this isn't the case with him. It's his wins. He won against guys who won 65% of their UFC fights, a combined 41 and 22. And I get it. He may be, you know, late in his career, but he's only 32 years old. In fact, the same 32 that Shara is. So at this price, I just think it's too good to pass up. I'm probably not going to cash it. You usually don't cash too many plus 300s, but I just think that price is just too good to pass up. And it's just such a premium attached to Shara, who's like a fan favorite, and you're just going to have to pay the price to back him. And I don't know if this is the best spot for him. With that said, hopefully we get that line movement and I'm able to get a decent price. But speaking of line movements, we do have a handful, Nick. Let's start it off with Sadikov and Camillo. Money coming in on Matus Camillo, who's only coming in off his first UFC win. And more importantly, hasn't fought yet in 2026, but obviously some sharp money because the line's dropping. Is it too late, or do we now get a discount on the Nazim side who's coming off a loss?
It's not too late. I like Camillo in this spot, to be honest with you. It's still overpriced too, and it probably will drop more. Sharp bettors, I think, will come in on Camillo as this fight gets a little bit closer. So it's just a good spot for him. I know he's had some issues defensively at times, cardio-wise at times as well, but I feel like he's hitting his groove now. And that was a pretty impressive win over Borshev, his last performance. And I think now that gives him confidence. He's here training in Vegas. As we know, both these guys are here training in Vegas, which Vegas is, it's always been the fight capital of the world, but it really truly is one of the best places for these high-level athletes to come train. You know, they have so many good camps out here in Vegas. So Camillo, smart for him to come out here and get the training in Vegas. So I think it's only going to improve his career as well. So I expect him to look even better. And I think he's going to have his moments in this fight. I do like Camillo. I think you can still get on the dog here and kind of ride that train for a while. I think you maybe jump off of him around maybe plus 150-ish, but there's going to be a lot of wiggle room. Because look, I mean, these plus 200, plus 220 out there. So all the way down to plus 150, I think you'll find some value, to be honest with you. Once it hits that plus 150 mark, maybe just leave it alone. But there's going to be some bettors that agree and find some value from Camillo as well.
Yeah, I took the plus 200 with Sadikov coming off that knockout loss. I think it's a decent spot for Camillo to make it 2 in a row at plus 200. It was worth the stab. Next up, Avis, a favorite of minus 190, but that dropped. In fact, he was at plus 105 just days ago or a week ago. Now back up to about that minus 160, 70 range, I think, against Oleksiejczuk, who's won 3 straight. 130, forgive me. That's a 3, not a 7. Against Oleksiejczuk. Is it a discount now on Magomedov or still value in a coin flip fight for Oleksiejczuk?
I feel like it's a discount on Magomedov, but man, this is a tricky spot. Even a tricky fight to line as well. To be honest with you, you know what I mean? Because both these guys, I mean, I could see Oleksiejczuk is getting so good. He's getting much better. But the problem is he's not as well-rounded as Magomedov is in this spot. So on the feet, I mean, you got to respect Magomedov's striking. He does have some power. He's aggressive. Oleksiejczuk is more of the sniper, and he's got power as well. So you're going to have two guys just going at it on the feet. The problem is Magomedov can mix in the wrestling a little bit here. He's got a better ground game as well. And he's capable of finishing possibly on the ground. So that's what makes him the favorite in this spot, the rightful favorite in this spot. And that's probably why the line's a little low. It's just the improvements of Oleksiejczuk that we have to kind of – I feel like he is getting better. His brother now in the UFC. There's a lot more to like about Oleksiejczuk now at this point of his career than it was early in his UFC career, to be honest with you. So this is a sleeper spot. And I feel like I could be very wrong here. But so I don't know. I'm going to see where the line movement goes here on fight day and then maybe make a bet either way. Because I could find value in Oleksiejczuk if the price is right. But right now it feels like it's a little short on Magomedov, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we talked about this fight before the line was ever opened, and we were trying to come up with what would the line be. And you're right. That is the path. 13-0 as far as takedown ratio for Magomedov, and Oleksiejczuk with only a 53% takedown defense. Yeah, if he could be taken down, could he be controlled? We will find out on Saturday night, possibly. Last but not least, who should wait? What was that? Forgive me. A couple big line movements, but Ruziboev, that's the one I wanted to talk about with Pulayev, because it was a minus 250, went up a little bit, and now it's just kept dropping in one direction in favor of Pulayev, who is coming in off a loss against Ruziboev, who's coming in off winning. Any value here, Nick, left to be had on the dog?
Man, I've been a little hater with, I should say, like, I just haven't believed in Ruziboev, if that's how you pronounce his name. We're probably butchering it a little bit, but I just haven't really believed in him all that much. But he is a good fighter. And I feel like, again, he made it to the UFC. I feel like he was kind of on the border of, should he be in the UFC or not? Now I feel like he should be in the roster. So he has improved. And again, he's got that UFC experience, that confidence, the mentality. Everything's getting better about him. But I still kind of want to fade him because I don't believe in him all that much. So I think it's Pulayev or pass, to be honest with you here as well. I don't think you can lay the chalk in this spot. I know it's kind of crazy because, again, he's coming off a few losses in a row. But I still think this is going to be a much more even matchup than the current odds indicate. So that's why I think it's a dog or pass situation. And again, I haven't got involved personally yet, but Pulayev is definitely tempted for me as well. So we'll see, again, where this line goes.
Without a doubt, it's the sharp side. I mean, you said he's coming in. He's off he got his Contender Series decision win in 2024. He's 1-2 since. He's coming in off a decision loss, where Ruziboev's coming off back-to-back wins. You know, he's won 4 of his 5 UFC fights, with the only loss coming to Buckley by decision. And yet Pulayev's getting the money. That to me, that's like sirens going off. There's a sharp side there for sure. So that must match up extremely well, like you're saying. So great stuff once again from Nick Kalikas. No surprise, we're going to be back with our guest of the week. Another good one for you. All right, we are back with our guest of the week segment. Another repeat offender. No true introduction needed, but we're going to do it anyway. Make sure you follow those that support us on social media. It's at Dan Tom MMA, simple DANTOM MMA. You could check him out at MMA Junkie, USA Today, now at Home of Fights, also sharing a lot of betting breakdowns, Action Network, pretty much all over the place when it comes to combat sports, most notably MMA. So welcome back, Dan Tom. How you been, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm just trying to follow the lead of your producer, James Lynch, and trying to be like one of the busier guys in this space. But always grateful for the work. Always grateful to be here talking to you guys for bets, listening to you guys every week. So it's always a pleasure to join the show.
How are you doing so far in 2026 with half the year in the books?
So this is tough. I've actually been doing much better on a lot of fronts, and was closing in on to be in the black a couple times and just missing these bounces. But I'm coming off of 2 really recordly like terrible years. So this year is really important. So getting, I had some momentum. I think I was like 4-0 in CFFC events, 3-0 in UFC events. And then I got crushed a bit on that White House card. I got smoked, right, with the, on the Taporia side, despite being on the right side of a bunch of other stuff. Had too much allotted there. Came back with a nice 5+ unit win last week, but you know how it is in this game. Even if you're moving in the right direction, you got to stay locked in. You can't get too high. If you're not supposed to get too low, then you can't get too high either, right, guys? So I'm just trying to stay focused right now.
This a lot of late. It's another outlier year, meaning we're halfway through, heading into the comp card. Yet last week we were through, I think, 19 events, 230 plus fights. 71.6% favorites versus the closing line. Underdogs 26.7, 1.7, no contest or draws. Yeah. Historically, over the last decade, we've had underdogs cash at about 34%. They're at 26%. That's a huge, huge drop with 230 fights in. Again, it's not a statistically significant sample size, but it's growing. With that said, do you think like the playing field has changed with the more fights, forcing more cards, forcing more fights? Is there less parity, which means more favorites? Or do you think this is just an outlier and the market, like all efficient markets do, is going to correct itself? So do we start looking to bet more underdogs, or does that get tossed out the window in today's MMA market?
You know, I said something earlier, kind of off screen, where perhaps buy low season is coming in more often, which is kind of feels dangerous to say. Perhaps again, I've been on the wrong side of some big favorites, so perhaps that's a very anecdotal bias on my part, that maybe I'm just getting on the wrong side of that 26%, Johnny. But at the same time, you know, with Paramount, the White House, we are getting an influx of new market, so we are getting that air quote casual money. However, even though we hate to do it, we also have to credit both the books and even that casual money, because betting has become so big across all platforms, not just UFC, not just combat sports. It's embedded in all markets. The public, even though it is still public money, they are at least a decent percentage of them getting sharper. So that's closing it from one end. And then, in my opinion, as a guy who plays a lot of plus money, who plays a lot of, you know, round robins, round flyers and whatnot, I remember my rule used to be like, I don't bet the round 3 prop if it's lower than plus 1200. Plus 1200 is a low number. Now plus 1200 is a high number for those, right? So the books, whether it's these from the obscure prop markets to the general money lines themselves, they are getting better about protecting themselves. You know, they've raised the castle walls on your classic over parlay pieces. You know, they've gotten a hold of all these trends, and so we hate to give them credit, but I think we also do have to give them credit there. But yeah, man, it's definitely changed. I'm not trying to sound like coping because, oh, I'm doing bad, so it's changed.
No.
This is just how it goes. For those of us who's been around, you have to find new ways to make, you know, monies in new markets, and new markets that's why we're also seeing new markets arising, from trade markets to, you know, these prop markets getting even more creative, right, on the books end.
Yeah, I think that's great for the bettors, as long as there's not that monopoly and it's one company that's gobbling up all these smaller companies to that we don't have options. I think it's a good thing. Give us more prediction markets, give us more sports books, give us more competition, because the more competition, the better chance we get of fairer lines, fairer odds. You know, that breeds competition. So, you know, I think that's better overall. Nick, jump in here before we start getting into some actionable information for Saturday.
While you're talking about the other sports markets out there, did you have any interest in the recent NHL playoffs or NBA playoffs at all?
No, man. So I got the NBA bug beaten out of me from the old Donahue 2005. Okay, I was a hardcore 90. I know I look young, but I was a hardcore 90s basketball fan. I used to take my own stats and compare it to the paper the next day, back in those days, where the internet kids. But yeah, I don't have the heart to follow or much less bet NBA, especially what I've seen lately and some of the people I follow and what they do in those markets. Oh my goodness, I would be pulling my hair out, guys.
And the NHL, of course. I mean, we're all disappointed here in Vegas, except Gianni.
Yes,
He cashed the big ticket the other way.
Nice.
He didn't bet with his heart. He bet with his head there. And
you got to do. That's what you got to do.
Carolina. How about World Cup? Any World Cup action?
Oh, I wish. That's one of my more favorite sports to follow. I really fell in love back, was it 2009 was the year, I forget. Really watching that Spain team, Captain David Villa. Of course, you got the Sergio Ramos's was in there and whatnot. But beautiful game. But again, another one I haven't followed. Once I followed MMA, guys, like I'm not hyperbole. I think I do like over 60 plus hours and watch just a bunch of tape. And when I have free time, like I have a hard enough time wanting to watch like movies or shows I want to catch up with, much less more sports. So it's been real tough to follow. So I apologize for the lack of info on that front, guys.
No, man, nothing wrong with that. Again, I commend in the MMA industry, I've met a lot of specialists, and I think that's awesome. And it's a year-round sport, so you can specialize in it and not really have a off season where you can get yourself in trouble dabbling into other markets that you didn't pay attention to. The other 9 months, like a lot of people do. I don't think that's a bad thing. With that said, we got one more card before the break, and McGregor Holloway 2 and International Fight Week comes here to Las Vegas. It's always a great time. I know you'll be here. James is always in town as well. But like I said, we have a card first on Saturday in Baku, Azerbaijan. Good thing is we're doing it on their time, but I think it's still respectable hours that we'll be able to watch it here in the States. Anything jump out at you in this main event with Torres and Fiziev? This line has moved. I mean, it went back and forth, meaning I know Torres had opened as the favorite, then it went Fiziev, and now we're back to Torres slight favorite. Or Fiziev, forgive me, now minus 120 in some places. And I know at one point at Bet Online, I think it was plus money. So at one point you could get plus money on either guy, because I know they brought out Torres at like minus 155. But instantly within like 5 minutes, Fiziev went the favorite. Got down to even money a few times since, but about minus 120, 1.5 total. Wow. Over 130, 135. Any opinion on this main event?
Yeah, so this is a classic spot where it opened very much in pick a side and ride territory, as I like to say, where you can take a side on either. Not too much meat on the bone of the dog, to be honest, even if you got that plus 110-ish neighborhood on El Loco Manuel Torres. But here's the tough part for me. This is a spot where I'm both biased, both on my take and also my reservation here, because I tend to get burned on these spots. I use the toothpaste in a tube analogy, guys. Now, I'll call out, gambling trends, and sometimes it'll ruffle people's feathers because I call out the gambling trends. MMA bettors, they love unders. They love flashy knockout guys. They love age. They love height. They love reach, right? But that's a two-way street. I have my own biases. I have to call out old Brazilians at plus money. Oh, Dan Tom's going to fall for that trick, right? Because back to the toothpaste and the tube analogy, I don't know how you guys, you either do the literal toothpaste or how you apply it to your analogy on betting fighters. But I'm somebody who maybe I'm just cheap, but I'll squeeze it out to the very last end, and obviously you can get some toothpaste out. You might be able to squeeze a win here or there. But when you get toward the end of that tube, guys, it's not pretty. It's not easy. And sometimes you're better off just getting a new tube, right? And then the fresher tube is a lot easier. And that's what I see with this fight. However, I do believe, back to what I was saying, both on air and off air now with you guys, is a little bit of buy low season is in. Now this isn't a popular card, so you're not getting the populist casual money or anything like that here. However, MMA bettors, even the hardcore ones, again, what do they love? They love flashy guys, tall guys, younger guys. And El Loco fits that check mark. Some guys just really fit that check mark. Like I had a tweet that got popular because I said, Yoel Alvarez, bettors love Yoel Alvarez. And it was like a picture of Yoel Alvarez. He's a similar guy, right? Flashy. He can submit. He can get like flashy finishes on the feet. But when you break them down, they don't have too much of a process, not that every fighter has to double jab and cut the cage. But yeah, whether you're a striker or a wrestler, I want to bet on the guy who has a process. He's going to be building off the jab. He's going to be feinting, using footwork, not just running in there, right? Like we saw with Topuria. In fact, this fight really feels like a Topuria and Gaethje light when you look at the dynamic. You've got a guy who's maybe not undefeated, but he's only lost once in the UFC, and Torres, all first round finishes. Now Topuria proved before the Gaethje fight he could go not 3 but 5 rounds and win, right? Torres hadn't even done that. Now he's not getting Topuria respect on the line accordingly. So I'm not making a 1-to-1 comparison, but the point is that we've seen this story before. You could be Ilya Topuria, but those first round finishes, they hit a ceiling. And I know he's lost once already, but I don't think Torres has quite hit the ceiling, and neither do bettors since money's coming in on him. However, that ceiling is coming. Now, I believe that Fiziev is going to be the ceiling. He's going to be my official pick here. And believe me, I think it's enough to buy low on him, especially you're not going to get a better spot live, which is how I would approach this fight if it were maybe lined the way it should be lined 2 years ago. But this is also a spot where Torres could come through, right, guys? So I'm not trying to deny that. But for me, I do like Fiziev here. And even though I've gotten burned on these guys, Fiziev has been looking for more takedowns, which not just makes me like his side, but I'll be curious what that total takedown prop is for those of you guys who love those more obscure prop markets.
I agree with you. And you assume like Torres is the younger guy, but it's just the less experience in the UFC age-wise. It's always like a less than 2 years difference. And I tend to agree with you, especially knowing that closing line in his last fight was about the same versus Hoofi. And now you're getting that same line versus Torres. I get it.
Yeah.
He lost that fight. But I care about the price, not the result. They could have fought that 6 hours later and something different might have happened. Who knows? But with that said, co-main event, Shara bounces back off his UFC lost to Michael Venom Page with a unanimous decision, got a bonus beating Marc-Andre Barriault, who has now lost, 5 of his last 6. So do we credit Chara with the W, or did he just catch Barriault at the right time? Value in Pereira at plus 300. Any opinion here?
I think he definitely caught Barrio at the right time, and Charles one of those fighters who's booked to catch fighters at the right time. And this on paper is that. Of course, does that mean it's going to happen? No, of course not, folks. You know, like people like to get a little too tinfoil hat and like, oh, what the UFC wants, the UFC gets. Like, listen, it's not that tinfoil hatty, folks. That they can book matches with things in mind, but the fights ultimately have to play out, as you guys know, betting on this thing. So I've been a guy who looks to fade Chara, you know, and he gets inflated odds. He's got inflated odds here, and I don't blame people for taking the Michel Pineda look. But looking back on it, we could also argue that Michel Pineda perhaps was, even though he's fighting in the right weight class now, not sure how he ever made 170, perhaps the ceiling caught up with him. I mean, he had a whole career almost before he even got to the UFC, right? And he's been here for a while. And in that career, he got stopped a whole bunch already, right, by UFC names and non-UFC names, mind you, in that regional roster. And Michel Pineda, he has been training in my backyard of Extreme Couture, which of course is biased, but also proven points. I mean, fighters do improve when they train there. However, I don't know how much he's been training there lately. It feels like it's been less and less. And even when he was there, guys, he was kind of working with his own coaches, which is natural. It's a big gym. You can't, you know, Eric Nixick can't be in everybody's corner, and there's plenty of other good coaches there too. But he would bring in his kind of own group of guys, and it's not been producing the results. So I might actually pick Chara here, which sounds crazy. Like might actually pick the big chalk. Like I know what you're saying, but for me, it's tough. Usually I love to fade Chara, but this feels like a dog or pass stay away. I might put like Pereira and like, you know, there's a couple other dogs that are plus 2 to 1 on this card. There's actually 3 others. And maybe instead of putting a unit on Pereira or a unit on one of these other dogs, guys, you take the unit if you're a round robin player and put all 4 of those dogs in there, and you just need 2 of them to hit. You know, maybe if you have strong conviction, sprinkle a little bit on one of them. Just a degenerate, granted, but a little fun betting strategy, perhaps, instead of throwing units on every dog you like.
Yeah, it's tough. Ahead, he's got that split decision win coming off a win against Zach Reese, but he had lost 3 prior, and you're right, it's 9th pro fight. A lot of wear and tear on that body. So the floor is yours, my man, like I like to do. Any actionable info you'd like to share with our viewers, we'd appreciate it. Saturday's card, it's a decent one. Like you said, it's not the most high profile name for your casual MMA fans, but I think you can find some decent value for sure.
Absolutely. I think the key word, you know, and the dreaded word value, right? It's a double-edged word, that one is. But I agree with you, Johnny. And speaking of the 2 to 1 dogs that I tease, well, let me tie that in with the spot you just teed up for me. One of the fighters I did interview for Home of Fight for this card, interview Manel Cap last card, got to see some of his sparring, was really impressed there. And same thing with Mateus Camillo. And again, I'm not directly on the inside of strategy, but at the same time, I do see a lot in the gym, so I try to be very respectful of that. However, I will say, you know, Camillo, the one worry about him being critically is his gas tank, right? But he did show that he would face those demons and had to overcome it, got the decision win. You can either look at it like, oh, he looked shaky, or you can look at it as, no, he overcame the thing that hurt him in the last couple fights. The kid is improving. And I'll just say that, again, I think he's lively as a dog here. And I'll just say that, again, back to the total takedown markets. There are 2 total takedown props that I would have eyed. One I already gave to you guys in Fazeev. The other is Camillo. And I'll just say I feel much more confident about that. And if those are happening, well, then I think even Sadikoff bettors would agree that maybe the line is a little closer if Camillo is going for takedowns. I'll just say that.
I agree with you. And Camillo, I mean, Slavik lost threw over 200 shots at him. So it's not like, you know, he gave a good 15 minutes. So that the cardio issues definitely did get addressed. Now, I don't know if it's in the past, but the line's definitely moving in your direction. At one point, I think it was up to minus 300 range for Sadikov. So interesting with that line now down to 240. If it'll bounce back between now and Saturday.
Yeah.
You're going to be in town for the McGregor and Holloway card. Any thoughts looking ahead? Not to paint you in the quarter, but anything jump out at you on any of those betting lines? We talked about before going on air how the line with Saint Denis and Patty is starting to tighten up from a 2-1 favorite now to -150.
Again, I wish I wasn't a Hawaiian guy from Extreme Couture, so some of this information would sound less biased. But man, I do love me some Hawaii on that card. I'll just say that. I also interviewed Kai Kamaka, and of course, the other Hawaiian and mentioned is Max Holloway on the top of the card. I imagine you guys are going to be there. I love that On the Line has been sending you guys more. And I don't want to change subject, but I hope, I'm not sure if you have roots, correct me if I'm wrong, with Philly, but I hope you guys get sent out to that card. I don't know if you have any info on that, but that would be really cool.
Yeah, I want to go to the Philly card, definitely, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I'm excited for that card as well. Obviously, I'm just curious to see what the public money is going to do for McGregor and Holloway.
Or on McGregor. Me and Nick were talking about that before taping On the Line, because I mean, it opens at one point. It was like -500, 450s, now all the way down to 255. I don't think there's a lot of recreational bettors that tied up their money on McGregor months in advance, but I think there's some sharp bettors that knew they were going to get a ton of closing line value by taking the +300, 340s, 310s that were available. Even if you don't like McGregor, you know you're going to place a good bet at that point. But now moving forward, what do you think happens?
I still have faith in the public money. Now, obviously, Ireland is not a big fan of McGregor in recent years, but I will say, and maybe you can speak to this, Johnny, that they're saying that, the UK backs their fighters at the window, and I know Ireland's UK. I'm not trying to get technical, but that area in general, right? Heavy money comes in if there's a fighter within that region fighting. That's just something that's traditional. And again, we got the new Paramount audience. I'm not trying to lean too heavily into that, but we've got just a whole new generation of audience where, the noobs of these days are like, they might not even have been around for McGregor. So they might only be betting off the hype and going off the hype of him. We just saw Max dominated. So I think the more the question in your mind is, what do you have to ask yourself as value? I don't think -275 Max is as much value as would Mayweather get that low at one point against McGregor, right? You know what I'm saying? These are the opportunities as bettors, as you guys both know, we live for. I think one of my biggest, I hate Jake Paul. I'm a huge Mike Tyson fan from a kid, but one of my biggest bets was, of course, Jake Paul over Mike Tyson. It was stupid chalk, but these are the opportunities you live for. Now, I'm not saying McGregor is quite in that category, but it could be awfully close, guys. And if it is, we want to be on the right side of that chalk. So you got to ask yourself, what number are you happy with? And do you think that there's still value with, right? Because like you guys tried to warn me and many with that Taporia line, is there still value in it? Do you want to put it in a parlay? Because is there value in it alone at all? You have to ask yourself that question.
Yeah. Holloway was down to 235 earlier in the week. I was ready to take I'm pissed I left it alone. It's Connor's
good number.
He's saying all the right things. People are seeing the interviews. They're not going back 4 years and seeing that it was the exact same interview, and he sounded just as ready, just as motivated, just as raring to go. So I saw that interview, and I knew over the next 24 hours we were going to see some line movement, and that's exactly what happened, because he's just a master at self-promotion. Nobody better than that. With that said, man, let us know what you've been up to before I let you get out of here.
Yeah, nothing much, man. Just, no podcast, just being able to be grateful enough to guest on podcasts like yours and others. And you can find me at Dan Tom MMA on the artist formerly known as Twitter. That's where my Action Network bets link, the home of fight interviews, and my usual weekly in-depth breakdowns and main card picks on fight day, which you can find over at MMA Junkie that drop all the time, man. And I hope to catch you guys on fight week, all three of you guys. It's going to be a big fight week. It's going to be crazy, but I'll be on the ground for once. So hopefully to see some familiar faces like your guys would be awesome.
Awesome, brother. Thank you. Thanks for sharing some time with us. Best of luck this weekend and the rest of the year. And we'll see you next week. In a few weeks, at International Fight Week, brother. Stay safe.
Let's go.
All right. Grab that pen and paper. That time of the week, we may get a nugget of information not factored into the betting line. James interviewed some of the fighters who are on the Baku card. What do you got for Saturday, James?
Again, keeping it light here, but we're all about the quality. Dan Tom interviewed Matthias Camillo. I also did as well, literally a couple hours before he hopped on this show here today. So he's in Azerbaijan already, which is a good sign. Got in on Saturday. Long travel day. He came from Vegas, obviously. So that's something where, they had a lot of time to kind of get acclimatized and all that. But he seems super relaxed going into this fight. And one thing I was wondering is how much notice he got for this fight. He got lots of notice. He said, I think 9 weeks for this fight. And an interesting thing that changed, looks like Sadikov switched management. So him and Sadikov have the same manager. So I imagine it was a little bit easier to put this fight together. And another thing I was curious about this fight is they both train in Vegas. Obviously Sadikov's over at Syndicate. They said they only trained together once. So not like super familiar with each other, but that is something to kind of keep in mind when looking at this matchup, that both do train in Vegas. Camillo obviously is from Brazil, but trains in Vegas. So something to keep in mind there. And I think he just looks at this as like, look, I'm fighting a big name here. I'm fighting a guy that's going to probably make this fight of the night. So I want to go out there and perform really well. And you can just feel the confidence oozing off Camillo, especially after that last win. So he's really looking to get in there. And he also mentioned that like he wanted to fight a bit sooner than this. So it wasn't on his end. He really wanted to get back in the saddle after that big win late last year. The other person I talked to for this card is Julius Walker. He is a underdog, obviously, in his fight. But again, same thing. Lots of notice for this fight. And we sort of talked about the Dustin Jacoby loss where it's like, look, like, tough outing, right? Like his opponent switches up, Jacoby steps in, learned a lot from that fight, was really encouraged by that first round. Second round, obviously he lost and Jacoby finished him, but took a lot of takeaways there. Even Jacoby himself gave him some good advice for the next one. But the big thing for this camp for Julius Walker is normally he does a half and half where he'll do his camp back in Missouri and his camp back in Vegas. This whole camp was in Vegas. So he's getting to work with guys like Sean Strickland, who he told me that basically after his title win, he was right back in the gym on Monday. So he's just getting really good high level training here. I think the odds are a little bit off on this one, guys. Like, if you look at what Walker has done in his UFC career, it's been a little bit odd. Obviously, he did get finished in his last fight, but he had that close fight with Alonzo Menafield. And, he's a guy that is still relatively young in the weight class. So we'll see if that full camp in Vegas pays off, I should say. But, coming in at like plus 450, it is something interesting to look at on the betting odds there with Julius Walker, who, feels like he needs to prove himself a little bit, right? He is on the losing end coming into this fight. You can kind of get that sense he is kind of fighting for his job here. So hopefully that all works out. And that is your Lynchbits for this week. 2 interviews. You can check those out on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/LynchOnSports under the UFC Baku playlist.
Great stuff. Someone bit because Walker was plus 450 just a few days ago, now down to plus 400. So great stuff from James. We'll be right back with best bets. See if we can turn those L's into W's this week. All right. It's that time of the week where we share our best bets. You know how we do it. We narrow down our top favorite, our top dog, and our top prop. Best bets only. If you don't have a favorite, you move on to the underdog because we bet size between $0 and $300, which gives you the ability to pass. The key, best bets. With that said, Nick, you can start us off. Do you have a favorite for Baku?
I do not. I think it's going to be a crazy kind of card to lay the chalk here. I think you got to look at more dogs on this card than anything else. So I do not have a favorite in this card.
I think you're right. I think you're going to get some sneakily, like just all you need is those, three good dogs in there to really screw up some of them favorite money line parlays that looked automatic. It always comes. With that said, I am going to lay some chalk and 130 on Abus Magomedov. Again, when this line came down, I wish I would have got it even cheaper, but I think up to 150, I'm still getting the best of it. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage when they're standing, and that's where the danger comes from Oleksiejczuk. We know he has the power, but strength of schedule-wise, this is a step up when you look at his wins. At least that's what the record tells us. And with Abus being able to mix in the ground game if needed, attempting, 2 takedowns per 5 minutes, and the takedown defense, the lack of takedown defense on the Oleksiejczuk card side, I think that'll make the striking of Abus even more dangerous. So for me, laying 130, I'll do it. I'll max it out, laying 390 to win 300 on Abus. I don't have a dog. Nick, do you have a dog for us?
2. We're going to go back to the 2-dog day because, again, I think there's actually, if you look at the card, there's other tempting spots as well. So it's not just 2 dogs.
Oh, that's a good way to, because even when you split, you make money. That's never a bad position to be in.
Yeah. And I think there's a good chance we split. There's a good chance, obviously, we win both bets, or I wouldn't be making these bets. But and it's the first one's going to be Fiziev over Torres. Again, at the price, minus 105, I think he should be a higher favorite in this fight. I think Torres is a very dangerous guy for sure. There's no question about it.
Would you wait on that to possibly get plus money? Because you can't get too bad, much worse. Like, you know what I mean? Is it worth waiting to possibly get plus?
I would probably take a little bit now at minus 105 just in case there's some sharp big money that comes in and kind of sways it back the other way. I think you're right, but I would probably take at least part of your bet at minus 105. And then if you want to wait on the other part and see where it goes, if you get plus money, that's even better, right? So at least put part of it, though, here now, because at minus 105, again, I think rightfully so, he should be like minus 155, minus 165. I think you can make a case for Fiziev to be that high of a favorite in this spot. Again, that's respecting Torres as far as the danger aspect, because he's going to come in here looking for that finish like he does time and time again. I just think it's going to be hard for him to find that finish, and Fiziev is actually going to get the finish. So 210 to win 200 on Fiziev for me at minus 105. And then I do have another bet, and it's Mateus. We talked about it earlier, Mateus Camilo. I agree. Our guest agrees. It feels like we're all lining up a little bit. I just think the way he matches up is perfect in this spot. So plus 220, I'm going to go 150 to win 330. I think he can get probably the biggest and most respected win of his career coming up. I think he is hitting his stride. He's getting confidence. He's addressing some of his concerns by training here in Las Vegas. So I'm expecting this kid to get better and better as, you know, his career matures, if that's the right word I'm looking for. But yeah, 150 to win, 330 on Camilo for me.
Awesome. Great stuff. I don't have a prop for this week. Do you, Nick?
No props for this week.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for me. And whether you follow or fade, I really hope you cash him, don't trash him, do some damage this week. Nick, get us out of here.
As always, we appreciate you guys watching each and every episode. Let's cash some tickets this weekend. More importantly, enjoy the fights. We'll see you guys next week.